AT&T is one of the largest enterprises in the specialized US market, which provides wireless and fixed communication services to both private users and international corporations. Since the inception of the brand, the AT&T logo has undergone a lot of modifications to adapt to the different changes made to the brand. We'll go over a general overview of the AT&T brand logo, its history, and its evolution, as well as the careers available in the company. We've also included a guideline for paying your AT&T bills online. Let's begin with the evolution and history of the AT&T logo. AT&T acquired the American Bell Telephone Company in 1889 and quickly became a monopoly in its niche. AT&T's monopolistic ambition sparked a feud between the company and the American government. That disagreement would lead the telecom behemoth to drastically modify its corporate culture nearly a century later. Since its founding in 1885 by Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, AT&T has undergone numerous changes. It became a monopoly and was later broken up by anti-monopoly laws enacted by the government. AT&T now offers television and internet services in addition to landlines and cell phones. The company's frequent transformations have resulted in several logo changes. There have been over 10 different logo versions in AT&T's long history. But let's start from the beginning. As a tribute to Alexander Graham Bell, AT&T chose a bell as their first visual representation. The first logo, created in 1889, included a bell within a triple square framework. The mark was transformed into an insignia less than a year later, in 1890. The design was later modified multiple times until 1969, when Sol Bass introduced a new minimalist style, a blue bell in a white circle. AT&T's blue color symbolized the bright future that lay ahead. The AT&T logo has undergone a lot of modifications since 1889. What started as a bell has changed to a globe, in line with the modifications in the brand. AT&T was divided into numerous entities in 1984, and the bell sign was prohibited. Sol Bass took on the task of creating a new logo. The designer chose the image of a globe after going through dozens of options. The globe has a realistic 3D impression using lines of varying thicknesses. The lines represented a global communications network that linked countries all over the world. That was how the corporation announced its global ambitions. To maintain continuity with the prior design, the color palette was kept the same. The firm name was written in uppercase omnis font beneath the globe. The logo was slightly altered in 2000. Following the merger of AT&T and SBC Communications in 2005, the art piece was given a voluminous appearance to represent the company's expanded range of services. Uppercase characters have been substituted with lowercase letters. In 2016, while the digital behemoth was venturing into new areas, it underwent another revamp. AT&T created a stylish flat logo to provide a flexible and modern image. The logo was appropriate for a variety of mediums, from printed surfaces to mobile devices. The corporate name has returned to its original uppercase typography. Now, let's take a look at some of the elements of the AT&T logo. The globe picture is the focal point of the AT&T logo. To give the illusion of a 3D globe, 5 bowed white stripes alternate with 6 bowed blue stripes. To the right of the globe is the corporate logotype AT&T, written in bold, black uppercase letters. This custom sans serif typeface is similar to the common Helvetica font, but it is a little bit straighter and thicker. The modern AT&T insignia, which depicts a three-dimensional representation of the planet, represents the company's global ambitions. Even though this brand has split up many times, it has the most subscriptions, including forced ones. Furthermore, AT&T is always improving its technologies, which allows the corporation to grow into new markets, including markets with almost zero competition. The company was forced to decide to go global, but it was the beginning of a new direction and a new logo. The contemporary AT&T logo was introduced in 1984 to replace the earlier monochrome version. It's a voluminous three-color globe with light blue, cyan, and white stripes. The light blue lines are darker at the intersections, lending depth and dimension to the logo. Other elements of the logo are the fonts and the color. Adjustments to the AT&T logo resulted in changes to the brand's corporate font. One significant modification in the placement of the signature occurred in 1984. If the previous text was beneath the globe, it has now shifted to the left, with the text on the right and at a comparable level as the globe. Another significant alteration was the switch from uppercase to lowercase lettering. This change was also symbolic. The corporation has grown so dominant on a worldwide scale that it can afford to employ small fonts. On the other hand, the original AT&T logo was black and white, whereas the present version makes significant use of color. This change shows that the company wants to be more noticeable and appealing to customers. But how was AT&T created? After Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876, AT&T was founded as the Bell Telephone Company. A year later, Bell and his associates established the Bell Telephone Company. The corporation was known as the National Bell Telephone Company for a few years before renaming itself the American Bell Telephone Company. By 1882, American Bell had grown large enough to purchase a majority interest in Western Electric, a Western Union (WU) business at the time. American Bell established the American Telephone and Telegraph Company in 1885. This is the first time we see the name AT&T appear. The subsidiary was employed to expand the telephone network that started in New York. Before facing its first antitrust suit in 1913, the corporation had grown tremendously. The business struck a settlement with the Justice Department known as the Kingsbury Commitment, in which it divested Western Union while also providing other telephone companies access to AT&T's network. The agreement also stated that AT&T would need government approval before buying up competitors. One could argue that this acquisition helped AT&T maintain its monopoly status due to its sheer size and control of the telephone grid. The government chased the corporation once more in 1949 since it was the only provider of phones that could work with their network. Western Electric was the name of the company, and it rented phones to customers. Once again, a settlement was reached in which AT&T relinquished control of Western Electric. By the 1980s, the telephone corporation could no longer defy the government. A Justice Department complaint that began in 1974 resulted in the dissolution of the company's business in 1982. AT&T would eventually split into 7 separate corporations. The company managed to keep its long-distance business, and the monopoly fell apart in 1984. As you'd expect, the company went through some major challenges down the line. AT&T's ultimate source of contention has always been its market structure. The corporation appears to have always had good success increasing its market share. But in more recent years, irony has completely taken over the plot. After years of struggle, a former monopoly, SBC Communications, formerly Southwestern Bell, purchased AT&T for $16 billion in 2005. With the adoption of the more traditional name, AT&T was once again on the map as one of the big dogs. Since then, the company's focus has shifted. The introduction of the internet and cell phones irreversibly altered the game. Over the last decade and a half, we've seen the new AT&T make a number of acquisitions, including Singular Wireless, Belshath, Cricket, and, finally, DirecTV. The value of the most recent acquisition has been called into doubt. But, in many ways, AT&T appears to have returned to the same pattern of acquisitions and market control that earned it such scorn in the past. The corporation was barred from acquiring T-Mobile, TMUS, in 2011. Great angst was also generated by its successful $85 billion acquisition of Time Warner. The transaction gave the business control of a vast array of media properties. CNN, HBO, all Warner Brothers holdings, and many more are among them. The Justice Department battled the agreement tooth and claw. A few years later, DirecTV was purchased for $49 billion. The transaction has been underwhelming, as the satellite TV company has failed to build its customer base in an ever-changing media market. It remains to be seen how the corporation will handle this difficult market. These transactions have created numerous liabilities for AT&T, which now has $173.5 billion in long-term debt on its balance sheet. Despite these liabilities, AT&T maintains a high dividend yield of 5.43%. The catch has been a stock price that has underperformed the larger market in recent years, gaining only 12% over the last 5 years. But it is hard to leave a company that has set itself up to be a leader in streaming. Almost certainly, the company's future performance will depend on how it changes DirecTV and whether it can use HBO to really compete in the streaming wars.